Hello and welcome all you friends, true believers, and newcomers alike. I'm Superfly Comics Guy and we've got a big one today. I'll be taking you through the Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 3, including the cover, the spine, the contents collected, the build quality, and a flip through where we can take a look at some of the stories and I can give you some of my thoughts, opinions, and recommendations. So if you enjoy that at any point, you know how to show it and feel free to leave your own thoughts down below. And remember, when we hit 1,000 subscribers, which at the time of recording, we are 25 away, I will be doing an omnibus collection tour for you guys to celebrate. But with that out of the way, let's dive into my favorite comic series of all time. So here we are with the dust jacket to this omnibus. Here is one of the variant covers you get. This is the direct market Moon Knight cover. There is also another direct market cover featuring Carnage and a standard cover available for this book. I went with this one because I wanted to shake things up a bit. I already have the Venom cover for Volume 1. I have a Carnage cover for Volume 2, so I didn't want to go with another Carnage cover for Volume 3. But that's pretty funny though, because for Volume 4 they're doing another symbiote cover as well, and that's probably the one I'll be going for that one. Here's the spine. Got a nice image of Spidey and Moon Knight down there. And the back. Got your Marvel cover gallery here, which we love to see. I always love the Ultimate Spider-Man covers especially. Cover price of $125 US, $156.25 Canadian. We are collecting Ultimate Spider-Man number 72 through 111 and Ultimate Spider-Man Annual 1 and 2. So let's flip this over here, show you under the dust jacket. There we are. If you've seen my haul video that featured this book, you've already seen this wraparound cover, but why don't I show it to you again? Again, really nice pencils. I wish they would have used the actual colors for this image instead of this sort of blue shade that they decided to go with. I think it would have made this board pop a lot better. But hey, I don't make the decisions at Marvel. I just ramble on the internet. But anyway, let's start taking a flip through. Alrighty guys, here we go. You know the drill. I'm going to try to avoid spoilers as we go through this book here. Although I may make reference to some stories that happened in the previous volumes, I'll do my best to keep it vague. We got a credits page here. Not a table of contents, just a credits for all the creators behind the stories collected in this book. Let me dive right into it. Man, this is such a special series to me. My very first video on this channel was a review of Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 1. And then for my 1-year channel anniversary, I did a review of Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 2. And I missed the date a little bit with this, but here we are, doing a review of Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 3 after 2 years on YouTube, which is pretty crazy to me. I know I haven't been able to put out as many videos lately, but the point is I never want to rush videos out just because. I'm here to share my passion and I want to do that naturally with you guys. And I want the discussion about these books to still be meaningful. So for all of you guys that continue to stick around, watching the videos, sharing your thoughts in the comments, I just wanted to say thank you so much, and I really do hope to be able to continue this for as long as I can. But anyway, enough rambling from me. This is a big book. A lot happens here in this volume. Because the previous 2 Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus volumes were a lot more about building up Spider-Man and his world, his circle. This book is where they really start to expand on this whole ultimate universe and really start to differentiate it even more from the main universe. Like there's a real, just a whole heap of characters that feature in here. You're already seeing Nick Fury, for example, but we also got Elektra and Moon Knight and Shang-Chi and Iron Fist, and Black Cat comes back. The X-Men start to show up more. Punisher and Daredevil. Even characters I completely forgot were in here, like Morbius and Blade, and some really, frankly, odd twists on characters like Spider-Woman and Scorpion. So many characters. It's actually pretty cool seeing Moon Knight in here, because back when I read this series the very first time, I wasn't really familiar with him. So back then, that was actually my first exposure to Moon Knight in a comic. But since then, I've read Moon Knight's main universe series and his omnibuses. So it's cool kind of going back to this, getting that new perspective, comparing this version of Moon Knight to the Moon Knight I've come to know now. And you'll get that feeling with a lot of the characters in here. They throw in familiar or, unique twists on these characters, but for the most part, they stay true to the foundation of each of these characters. But yeah, there's also lots of villains that feature in here. Big ones like Kingpin, but smaller ones like Silver Sable and Deadpool, and cameos like Vulture and Tinkerer and Ringer and Kangaroo and Shocker. There's quite a lot of characters in here. And the important thing to keep in mind, though, is that these are alternate versions of these characters. So just because they may have played a huge role in the main universe, anything can happen here. But anyway, that's enough rambling about characters. Why don't I tell you a little bit more about the stories that you'll be getting in here? And well, after everything that's happened in the previous 2 omnibus volumes, Peter here is going through a pretty tough time. You're kind of going to start to see a lot of his anger issues come out, losing control of his emotions, missing out on school, which causes tension with his Aunt May. And I like that. I've said this before, but there's a believability to Peter here and his emotions. He can get angry, and there's going to be times in here in this book where you straight up disagree with some of the things he says and the way he acts. And I like that. I like characters that can be fallible and vulnerable in that way, which I think this series just does really well in general. One of the big things that happens towards the beginning here is that Harry Osborn returns to school after all the drama that happened with his dad and the Green Goblin, because last time we saw Harry, he was very traumatized, right? He was struggling a lot, and that continues here. And let's just say that Harry is harboring some secrets of his own in this omnibus volume as he returns to school. The Kingpin returns as a big villain in this omnibus volume because his criminal empire starts to be threatened by Hammerhead, who's trying to move in on the Kingpin's territory. So Spider-Man ends up forming a partnership with the police captain, Jean DeWolf, to try to take these guys down. Other stories in here. Oh god, this is such a good time to talk about the art, though. Like, Mark friggin' Bagley, man. Just look at him. His splash pages and his spread pages, his giant panels are always so incredible. These dynamic poses. I love it. It's one of my favorite Spider-Man artists, if not my favorite. He has his, his weaknesses. I do think sometimes in this run, he can reuse a lot of the female faces, for example. There's some characters in here, female characters, that end up looking pretty similar, but otherwise, man, I love the art in this omnibus. But anyway, this omnibus is also where Peter Parker starts to hang out more with Kitty Pryde of the X-Men and develop a relationship with her, which inevitably leads to some conflict with Mary Jane. And, for the most part, though, I really like the relationship that Spider-Man and Kitty Pryde have, because it's interesting him being able to have a companion with powers, right? Somebody he doesn't necessarily have to worry about saving from danger all the time. But hey, their relationship isn't perfect either. There's a fair share of drama with Kitty too, and she can be a little crazy at times as well. Silver Sable eventually gets hired to track down Spider-Man and try to unmask him. She's pretty similar to her main universe counterpart, this just, trained assassin with her group of wild pack soldiers. Ultimate Deadpool features in here, and he's very, very different from his main universe counterpart. Deadpool here is basically just racist against mutants. The X-Men and Spidey at one point get kidnapped and dropped on Krakoa, which is an island in the South Pacific, and are hunted by Deadpool and his lackeys. Meanwhile, the whole thing is televised. So, interesting twist. He's actually a prominent villain in this. And this version of Deadpool was actually featured in the Shattered Dimensions video game, which I played before reading this as well.
Hi, Ma, and welcome to Pain Factor, the only show where you compete for your life.
But yeah, all this stuff is going on in Peter's life, and meanwhile, he has to juggle all the personal stuff too. His relationship with Mary Jane and the whole love triangle going on with Kitty Pryde, and keeping all these secrets from Aunt May and having to juggle school. It's, needless to say, he's juggling a lot. It's a stressful time, but the back half is where this book really picks up, because this is where we get the ultimate clone saga, which is probably the biggest story in this book. Now, why is this such a big deal? Well, the Clone Saga, if you're not familiar, in the 90s, is one of Spidey's most controversial stories from his entire history. And if you're not familiar with the Clone Saga, feel free to check out my videos on them. I've covered all 4 of the Clone Saga Omnibus volumes. But anyway, massively controversial story. So it was a bold and dangerous move to try to take that story and adapt it here, an ultimate version of it. But man, Bendis and Bagley, man, they take the Clone Saga and they make it good. Like I said, this is where this omnibus really becomes a page turner. So, what's the deal? Well, the gist is that Peter Parker ends up encountering himself. That's right, another Peter Parker. And the Fantastic Four ends up trying to help him figure out what's going on, because it's not just another Peter Parker. There are people that are supposed to be dead that start to reappear in Peter's life. And the conflict with Aunt May comes to a head during this time as well. She takes things particularly hard. S.H.I.E.L.D. and Nick Fury have to get involved. And everybody just wants to kind of find out who's behind this. Who is making Peter's life so miserable during this time? And unlike the main universe version of this story, the Ultimate Clone Saga is so much more straightforward, concise, it has a clear vision, and it is paced so much better. Now, sure, there are some moments where Bendis's writing can get a little bit exposition heavy at times. Bits where characters are like, let me tell you exactly why I did this thing and this thing and this thing and how I accomplished all of this stuff, which can, kind of feel a bit heavy-handed at times. But honestly, that's a nitpick when you think about how convoluted the 90s Clone Saga was. And yeah, there's so much more to this book, but I would really rather let you discover the stories in here for yourself if you're interested. As for the extras you get in this book, we start off here with some beautiful variants by Mark Bagley. Covers, we got one here by Stuart Immonen, one here by Joe Quesada. Some character sketches and character designs, costume designs, cover sketches, cover pencils. Really, really nice here. I don't know, I like seeing original penciled art like this, kind of watching the process come together. Ooh, this is pretty interesting, because here we have the Clone Saga premiere hardcover introduction written by Jerry Conway, who is well, long story short, was one of the writers in the 70s when the whole kind of original Clone Saga was happening. Not the 90s one, but the original one. And he's kind of offering his perspective on the ultimate version of that. And he's just talking about how the ultimate version of the Clone Saga is so much more focused. But he brings up some interesting points, how even bad ideas sometimes can lead to good ones, like how the original Clone Saga led to the creation of the character known as the Jackal, which led to the creation of the Punisher. And we all know how big the Punisher has become since then. So that's an interesting point. We got an interview here by the writer, Brian Michael Bendis. And this is interesting too. He's talking about how, well, his writing process and the process of humanizing the characters and how he actually based some of them on real people in his life. Changing things up, but also the importance of staying true to a character's foundation. You also get an interview with Mark Bagley, talking about his history with the series, how he initially turned down the offer to do the art on Ultimate Spider-Man, and he was going to leave after just 6 issues, but he changed his mind, and 100 issues later, he's just surprised that they were able to tell so many stories while still keeping things fresh, even though Peter's still in high school the whole time. Which is an interesting point. He mentions how it's not always a good idea to force your characters to age. Sometimes they're right where they need to be. We got some more bonus material from Ultimate Spider-Man issue 100. Just some unused art, covers. What else? I think there's oh god, these are so cool. Character designs and notes. Right, the Ultimate Spider-Man Saga, which is basically a recap of the Ultimate Spider-Man story all the way up to issue 100. So, just in case, I don't know, it's been a long time since you've read the other volumes, that can catch you up a little bit. And then you have Mark Bagley's quote-unquote final issue farewell, because after this he leaves the series and Stuart Immonen comes on to do the art, but Mark Bagley would eventually return. But yeah, very impactful, because Bendis and Bagley set the record for the longest collaboration between a writer and an artist on a single series. But there you go. That's your extra section. For build quality, very, very impressed with this. We have 1,096 pages in this omnibus. There is that wonderful eye there. And yeah, I'm really impressed with the build quality of this book. The excellent eye, the minimal gutter loss. I very rarely noticed page bleed in this book. Now you can see not too much gutter loss at all. Getting all the letters of Roxxon there. This book is printed at the Mega printer in Turkey, which is a newer one that Marvel seems to have started using. So it's not the iMac one. And generally, pretty happy with what they've been pumping out so far. I would have liked to have seen page numbers and a table of contents, but oh well. The stories flow pretty well in this book, so I didn't mind that too much. But now it's time to wrap up with some closing thoughts. But honestly, what more can I say? Ultimate Spider-Man was my first comic series. This is a series I always recommend to new readers looking to try comics or get more familiar with Spider-Man. Brian Michael Bendis, for the most part, has a really fantastic grasp of the core of these characters, and the art by Mark Bagley is simply stunning, and in this volume it really becomes more refined too. So if you liked Volume 1 and 2, then you will likely enjoy this too, and I even think this is better than Volume 2, and does a really, really good job of expanding the Ultimate Universe, and especially in the second half of this volume. You just don't want to put the book down. Am I biased? Yeah, of course. This series is always going to hold a special place in my heart, but that's my opinion, and I gotta be honest. But anyway, guys, that's been my review of the Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 3. So you let me know what you thought about the book, any of the stories inside, or if you have any questions, you can leave them down below. and I'll be happy to help you out. For now though, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to catch you in another video real soon, so you have yourself a great day. I've been Superfly Comics Guy, and until next time, you keep reading. Bye-bye, guys.